Hi, thanks for coming to my channel. I'm going to show you a box that I made. There will be a tutorial following. It's an easy project because it's just a basic box, but I show you two ways on how to make a box. On the top, the lid I did differently than I did on the base of the box, and so you can see the different ways. This is the paper Christmas cheer from Country Craft Creations, and the box measures, what was it? It's 5 inches tall, 8 1/4 by 6 1/2 deep. So right now it's empty, but I will be making an album to put inside. So if you are interested in making this box, stay tuned because I'll do a tutorial right now. When I make this camera card box, I'm going to use the Christmas cheer paper by Country Craft Creations. It says it's a retro Christmas theme paper and it's adorable. I did do a walkthrough of this previously, so if you want to take a look at it, that's on my channel. But let's go ahead and start some measurements for the box. We'll start with the base of the box. So the box is going to be 8 1/4 by 6 1/2 for the base. So you'll just need one of those. And go ahead and place your adhesive on the back. I'm using the score sheets. I did have to piece some of it because I didn't have full amounts, but for the front and back, you're going to need two that are 5 by 8 1/4. And for the two sides then of the box, you're going to need two that are 5 by 6 1/2. So you'll probably want to write this down, watch it through once, and then write down your measurements and then go back and cut. So there's that chipboard. And then for the lid, I made it just a hair, what did I do? Like 3/8 bigger instead of a half. Because with the paper on there, I don't like it to crinkle my paper. So the lid is 8 5/8 by 6 7/8. Is that hard to see? You'll need two for the front and back of the lid. That's 1 1/2 by 8 5/8. 1 1/2 by 8 5/8. And then two for that are 1 1/2 by 6 7/8. It gets blurry when I get that close. Okay, so those are your chipboard sizes. So now, like I said, go ahead and put adhesive on the back of all of them. So I went ahead and already did that to all of my pieces. And then I got my cardstock ready also. So we're going to wrap the lid and the base. And so here are the measurements for the paper. The base of the box, you're going to need one that's 11 1/4 by 9 1/2. You'll need two that are 10 1/4 by 7 and two that are 8 1/2 by 7. The lid piece, you're going to need one that's 11 5/8 by 9 7/8. That just gets so blurry. Let's see. That's not great, is it? There we go. I don't know where I stopped, but the lid is one at 11 5/8 by 9 7/8. You'll need two that are 10 5/8 by 3 1/2, and two that are 8 7/8 by 3 1/2. I don't know where the best place to show that is. Okay, that's the cardstock, and I'm using black cardstock. So we'll start with the base of the box. And what we're going to do is wrap it kind of like an album, and we're going to have this part will look like an album, like this, and this top and bottom, the top and or the front and the back of the box. So what we need to do is just place the largest piece on our black paper, and then that's almost it, okay, because we're going to want the wings on the sides of both the front, right and left, and the top and the bottom. So for the bottom, let's go ahead and place it on the cardstock. That is 11 1/4 by 9 1/2. And I believe, let me double check, that I wanted 1.5 on all 3 sides, and I think that's what the measurements that I did give you. So let me check here. 11 and yep. Yes. That gives you a 1.5 inch border on all 4 sides. So I'm going to place this here. I only have one of the yellow one, so I'll just eyeball the top and the bottom so that it's at about 1.5 inches. So I'm going to remove the backing. And like I said, I'll eyeball the top and the bottom. It doesn't have to be perfect, so we're good. And then go ahead and turn that over and burnish it. Okay. I am going to go ahead and lift the sides up and over, and I will burnish all of those. On all 4. Okay. And all I'm going to do, let's see, what am I going to do? I want to make it so that we can attach all of the pieces. So I just want a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and cut out the squares on the base of the box. So I'm going to cut right up to the chipboard. So I'm taking all the squares out from the 4 corners. Okay, so we do want a slightly miter. Now we are going to end up having paper that covers here, here, and here when we connect the other pieces. So I'm not really worried about the chipboard showing. I am going to slightly miter each of these because I don't want there to be any paper showing off to the side. So I just rest my scissors up against the chipboard, and then I turn this over when it's, there we go, and this one, ooh, that's messy. And what am I missing? Okay, up here. All right, so now let's get rid of this mess. So that's all we're going to do with the base right now. All we did was lay it down, cut out the squares, and then slightly miter each of the sides at an angle. Okay. Now for the 5 by 8 1/4 piece chipboard, we're going to wrap that with the 10 5/8 by, the 10 1/4 by 7 papers. And this will give us a 1-inch border on all 4 sides. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to place this in my scoreboard. I'm going to use my 1-inch spacers. If you put the top one on first, then the other one can come off the bottom and not get have that ridge get in the way. Take off your backing. This is when I had to piece, so I got one more to take off here. And go ahead and just bump it up against those 2 spacers. If you don't have the acrylic spacers from Country Craft Creations, you can always cut chipboard and have those as your templates, as your guides. That's what we used to do before we had these available at the store. So I'm just going to go ahead and place all of my chipboard pieces on the cardstock. Let's go ahead and do the next one. Again, these have 1-inch borders. Bump it up against there. My burnish on the back. And then let's go ahead and do the smaller pieces also. They get a 1-inch border too. This piece of paper was 8.5 by 7. And our chipboard is 5 by 6.5. Look at all this piecing I had to do. But I don't let any of this score tape go to waste, so I make it work. But do not waste any of this. The sheets are like a lifesaver. I love them. Those are available at Country Craft Creations. It does make your covers when you're making an album super easy. For a project like this where you have large spaces to cover, it's a godsend. Okay, 1-inch border on this. We're going to lay it down. When you pick it up, bring it over and burnish it. And let's do that on the last piece for the base. We'll do the bottom first, and then we'll go back and do the lid. All right. And I'm going to burnish that one too. Now, because the wings are on the large piece, we can wrap each one of these sides, all 4 of them, the same way. So I'm going to show you with one, and then I'll do the other 3 off camera to save some time. But you're going to do the 2 that measure 5 by 6.5 and the 2 that measure 5 by 8 1/4 all the same way. So let me do one of them. So just like before, we're going to bring the chipboard up and over the cardstock and burnish it. Now when I do the one that has the wings like I did on the base, I cut out the squares on the corner. I don't do that on the other ones. I like a angled miter. Why, I don't know, but I do. And so instead of cutting out the squares, which you can totally do, I'm going to go ahead and miter it at an angle. And I have a tool that makes sure that I get just the right amount of space away from the corner. So I just lay this down and cut like so. And so you can see there's just a little bit, about 1/8 of an inch off the of cardstock away from the chipboard. So I'm going to do that to all 4. I guess I'm a creature of habit. I like the look of this better because that's what have always done. But for some reason, the ones with the wings, that's not what I do. So I don't know. So I like to use score tape, and so I place score tape on the perimeter of the chipboard first. And then I'm going to place the score tape around the perimeter of the cardstock also. Some people just use the art glitter glue for this part, and you can totally do that. I'm going to go ahead and burnish that on. I like a really strong stick, and so I don't want to take any chances. So that's why I still use score tape, and I use the glue at the same time. I use both on the base. So now I'm putting the score tape on the perimeter of the cardstock. Kind of hard to see on this black paper. And I'm going to burnish that also. All right. I'm going to throw away these papers. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do the 2 long sides first. So I'm going to go ahead and take off the backing. I'm going to do the backing off of the ones from the chipboard all at once so I don't accidentally forget and leave it on there. Oops. And then I will take this one off. So using your art glitter glue, then you're going to want to put a bead of glue up against the chipboard. And I think my glue got a little bit cold because it's pretty runny, but it still adheres fine. And then I fill in here, and then I'm just going to bring that up and over, and I'm going to lay it down smooth. And you can have a dry wet wipe handy in case any glue comes out. And then burnish it real well. And along with that, you're going to want to burnish the edge so that it has a nice smooth edge. I do the opposite of the long side now, so I always do the sides opposite each other. Same process, put the glue up against the chipboard and then fill in the center. Up and over and smooth it out. If you have any excess, have your wet wipe handy, but it's not wet, it's dry. We let them dry out. Burnish. And now, because of the way I do my corners, I have to tuck in that little excess on the corner so that the paper lays against the corner so you don't see the chipboard coming through. So I'll try and bring it closer and show you. There's just a little bit of excess, and I just push it down over the chipboard. Go ahead and place your glue. Then I just kind of put my nails on that little piece that I tucked just to make sure it stays down as I bring that cardstock up and over. Burnish and on the edge. Last side, go ahead and tuck that paper. If you did it at an angle, tuck that around the corner of the chipboard, the excess. You don't have to do that if you cut out the squares. And then we'll finish with the glue. Make sure that stays down. And nice and smooth. And because we use the score sheets, it's very smooth, no ripples. Here's the inside. Okay, so just like we did that one, do the other 3 pieces the same exact way. So I need to make sure I tell you that on the long sides, I said that we were going to wrap them all the same like this. Incorrect. You need to leave the wings on the left and right open of the front and back piece so that you can connect the sides together. Okay, so please leave these 2 open just on the long ones. So I'm going to do another one. I might as well just do this one on camera. I'm going to bring it up and over. Everything's going to be the same. We're just going to leave the 2 short sides open. Okay, so you can either cut out the squares or you can cut it at an angle. It doesn't matter. I'll go ahead and do this one with the squares. And you're just going to do all 4 like you did before. On the other one I did the angles. It doesn't matter. It's whatever you feel most comfortable with. And then you are going to want a miter so that you have that angled edge. I lose track of which one I've done. Okay, still need to do this one. Now did I get all of them? Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do is leave the short sides open, and so we just need to put score tape here on the long sides. Okay, and then I'm just going to go ahead and put score tape on the black paper on the edge of just the long sides. Burnish those as always. Okay, let's go ahead and take the backing off. Put your glue up against the chipboard and on the inside here. And bring it up and over. I'm going to go ahead and burnish that edge. And then the opposite side. I was going to do all these off camera, and as I was working I was like, oh wait a minute, I need to make sure I leave those sides open, and I didn't think I had said that. So that's why you always watch first and then come back and do it later to make sure that I'm not good at editing videos at all. I mean, I try, but I'm not very good at it. So if I make a mistake, I try and make a note on the screen. Okay, so then leave these open. So now we're going to start connecting our box together. All right, so I think I do a box differently every time I make a box. So if you've seen some of my other videos, I may not have made the box this way, and that just gives you options, I guess. Take your bone folder and burnish the paper right up against the chipboard on the base piece. So just go right up to that chipboard so that there you see an indentation. Then you place score tape on the wings. Now you don't go all the way to the chipboard. I leave a little bit of space. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my long sides first. Okay, and so I'm going to turn it back upside down so you see the raw side, and I'm going to bump this up right against the chipboard and make sure it's lined up, and then I'm just going to bring that over. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing. I will put glue in between the pieces of score tape, just to make sure it has a good stick. And I'll just put some in between here. Some people like to put a little bit on that score tape just in case they need some wiggle room or some time to move it. And I'm going to bump it up right against there, try and line it up as close as possible, and then I'm going to bring that up and over. And then please burnish that. Okay. You're going to do the same thing to the other side. So I'm going to get my large piece, line it right up against that piece of chipboard. Go ahead and remove the backing. I'm going to fill it in with a little bit of art glitter glue. I'm going to bump it right up against there. Oh, not good. That's not what I wanted to do. Bring it over. Burnish it real well. And now we're going to do the short sides the same way. But now we'll just have our book turned, or our box turned this way. So I'm going to go ahead and this will get bumped up right against the chipboard, like so, and then this will come over. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that process again with taking off the backing and filling in with glue. Don't need a whole lot. Just a little bit on there. Bump it up against the chipboard. Bring it over. Other side. I accidentally put score tape on that, so I had to rip that off. I don't know if you can see there's kind of a rough looking edge there, but you won't see it when I'm done. Okay, I have my chipboard pieces right up against each other, and I'm bringing that up and over. So just like an album, we want to place paper to reinforce. We don't want this raw edge, so we're going to place paper. I don't have it cut yet, but you can just use scraps. You don't have to have it an exact measurement, but you're going to take a piece of paper then and glue. See, this isn't cut to size yet, but you're going to glue it so that it covers the edge of the chipboard and covers this second piece of chipboard, so that you have it stronger and you won't see the chipboard when you start putting your decorative paper on. Okay, so I'm going to cut 1/8 of an inch shorter than my chipboard, the height, and then usually if this is 1.5, I'm going to go, probably my paper will be 1.5 and 1, about 2.5 to 3 inches wide. Okay, so I'm going to do 3 inches wide on here, 3.5 inches here, or 3, and 1/8 of an inch shorter. So let me start cutting, and then I'll get back and let you know what I have for measurements. I measured the same. I didn't cut my paper any shorter. So this side is 6.5, so I cut my paper 6.5, and these are all going to be 3 inches wide. Okay, and I'm just going to lay it down like so. So you can use score sheets if you want. I wouldn't just use glue because it gets rippled, but I put a piece of score tape on one piece of chipboard and then on the edge of the other one. And then I'm going to take off the backing, and I pretty much covered this piece of cardstock with all of the score tape, but I have a couple spaces, and that's okay. I might fill that in with glue, but you don't want to do the full thing with glue. I've tried that before, and you'll be sorry. It does get pretty ripply and gross. Doesn't stay nice. So I'm going to go ahead and, oopsie, take off this backing. It is nicer when it's the score sheets because it doesn't take so long to take the backing off, but I had this handy, so I'm going to use it. Okay, now like I said, I think I will put a little bit of glue just in the middle here where I didn't have any score tape, just to help it have a strong hold. Okay, so I want it to just go end to end on the chipboard, and I want to make sure I cover this piece here. So I'm just going to lay it down, burnish it. I already did the other side. That one was longer than 3 because I forgot to cut it, but better too big than too small. But all these are going to be 3 wide. Okay, so then you're going to want to take your bone folder and carefully just lift that up and tuck that into the crease. Okay, like so. So we're going to do the same thing on the long sides, and so I went ahead and I put the score tape on the back of my paper. So these are 8 1/4 by 3, and I'm just going to do the same thing because I want the chipboard to be covered so you don't see it. Okay, so I am going to put score tape on the chipboard here just so that it has a good catch right there. And I'll put one on this side also. Okay, let's go ahead and remove our backing, and then we'll lay that down. Okay, let's go ahead and remove the backing on these two pieces. I don't remember if I burnished those, but you should. Just fill in a little bit of glue where I don't have score tape. Okay, and I want to line it up end to end on the chipboard so that you don't see any of it peeking through. And we're going to do the same procedure where we're going to lift up and tuck it. You can see a little bit of my chipboard, but it will be covered, I hope. If not, I'll make it covered. I might, you know what, just to be sure, I'm going to take a black marker just in case this doesn't get fully covered, and I'm just going to put some black on that chipboard. Because that would really bother me if I could see chipboard through there. Just there. Okay. Okay, voila, it's fixed. Okay, let's go ahead and lift this up carefully. It's going to be a little bit more firm. And just tuck it into that fold. And now we're going to do the last one the same exact way. Score tape on the chipboard, score tape on the other side, on the back of our paper that's 8.5 by 3, and we're going to layer down like so. Before you put your box together, you probably want to put your paper on the outside. I went an 1/8 of an inch shorter, so if it is 8 1/4, I went 8 1/8, and if it was 6 1/2, I went 6 3/8. If you have directional paper, make sure that you know, or put it on so that when you put the sides up, that you have the pattern going the right direction. Okay, so just make sure your patterns face into your center, and then that will work. On the inside then, you can do two things. You can put the center piece on, and it's the same measurement as the other one, and you can put these long sides on. Before you put your decorative paper on, again, I took a black marker. Some people like construction strips, and I don't. So like when we put this box together, some people would put a construction strip inside. I don't like those. So I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to put a piece of black paper here just to hide this, the end of the chipboard. But I did take my marker along the edge of the chipboard here also, just in case. So what I will do then is I will just cut a piece of paper and stick it right up against that chipboard to the very edge. This is on the inside of the box, so you're not going to see it much anyway. So another thing, I was putting my box or lifting it up to make sure that it would fit together nicely, and I about had cardiac arrest. I was like, oh my gosh, these don't line up right. But it does if you kind of have to push it together. So like right here, at first I was like, oh, they don't line up here at the corner. But when you put your glue, your adhesive, you're going to have to hold that and push it for quite a while to make sure that it has a good, that it dries real well, so that it stays nice and neat on those corners. So if yours isn't lining up perfectly, you got to work with it a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach, and this you can just use glue. I'm just going to cut 2 strips for each of my long pieces and adhere them to each end of the chipboard so you don't see it when I put the pattern paper on. You can put your pattern paper on the 2 long ones again before you put your box together, but do not put the pattern paper on these, because you're going to be gluing this tab on here and you don't want that to show on the top of your paper. Okay, so I am ready to bring up the sides. I'll bring this up close. The way I glued my paper on, you don't see that black on the sides, you know, I put so you don't see the chipboard. I made sure that I brought it down a little bit so that this pattern paper would cover it. So if this is 5 inches high, my black strip was about 4 3/4, so I could drop it down so that you don't see that extra little piece of paper up there. Hope that makes sense. So we are going to glue. I just am going to do one at a time. I'm going to load that puppy up with glue. You can use not seam binding. Please don't use that. Score tape. and you're just going to have to hold it there for a while, like just hold it and press it and keep it there. So I'm probably going to use a little combination. No, I'll just use glue. So I'm just going to show you one, and then you'll do all four the same way. So I'm going to put it on this 1-inch flap, and I'm not going to go to the very edge because I don't want any glue to show through. So I'm going to load it up here, and I'm going to go almost to the edge, but not quite. So see, there's a lot of glue on that. And then I'm going to line it up. I'm going to bring it up and hold it, and I'm just going to press it there for a while. Oh, sorry. Just to make sure that it dries with all of it sticking so that the corners line up nice and neat, the edges line up. So I'm going to keep holding it. Okay, I'm going to flip it so that I can burnish it on the inside and make sure that it's adhering down here or in here. Check it again and just hold it for another second or two. Okay, so it does line up. There's a little bit of glue I gotta wipe off. Okay, so let's do all four corners the same way. Push that together. Then we can paper the inside on the short ends. I am going to show you a different way to do the lid. You can actually do the box, the main part, this way too, or you could do the lid the same way we did the base. But I'm just going to show you another option. Some people don't like the way you can see the corners, you know, like you can see the individual. I don't know if you can see that. They don't like to see that. They want this to be smooth so that you don't see the individual sides. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and then you can decide if you want to do your lid this way or if you want to do it the way we did the base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wrap this on all four sides. This is the base to my lid. Okay. I'm not going to put my spacers on. I'm just going to go ahead and adhere it and eyeball it into the center, and I'm going to wrap all four sides, and it's the other pieces that we're going to do differently so that you don't have the ridge showing. So this doesn't have to be perfectly in the center. I'm going to try, but so that'll work. So we made the lid a little bit bigger, remember, so that we could get it to fit over the box once we've had our pattern paper on there. So this is just like we did the side pieces where we wrapped all four sides. So you don't have to watch this. I mean, if you feel comfortable. I'm going to go ahead and lift it up and over. I'm going to go ahead and burnish. I'm going to do it on all four sides. And to be real honest, I decided to do it this way at last minute. So I had planned on doing it the same way I had done the base. But then I got to thinking, I don't know that I want to see those edges on my lid. So I'm going to do it this way. And I've made boxes like this before too. Like I said, I think I make them different every single time I make them. I'm trying to find which way I like the most. So I'm going to go ahead and do the mitering tool instead of the squares, just because I like that look a little bit better. So let me get my knife here, my blade. And I'm just going to go on all four sides and angle it. You don't go all the way to the chipboard when you do it like this. You leave about 1/8 of an inch from the corner. You can eyeball it too. You don't have to have this special tool. And then just like before, we're going to place tape along the perimeter of the chipboard and along the perimeter of our black cardstock. Alright, I'm starting to put the cardstock, wrap it around the chipboard. I already took off the backing of the score tape here and on the sides of my chipboard. Now I'm just going to go ahead and lay down all 4 sides. Remember to put the glue up against the chipboard also so that you can have the paper adhere real smoothly. And burnish it real well. And along the edge, just like before. So you get to become a pro after doing these for a while, so that they go pretty fast. I'm gonna go ahead and put that glue there so that it can kind of soak into the paper a little bit. Then I'll take the backing off my tape, or off my score tape. This is just like the other, remember? Alright, and just like before, because I have mine mitered at an angle, I got to push that excess paper down on the corners to go around the chipboard. And hold it down, or at least I do, so it doesn't pop up. One more, and then it's going to be the sides that we're going to do different. I keep saying that over and over, but I just want to make sure that you know you can do it the other way like we did the bottom. You don't have to do the lid this way. So that is done. Nice and smooth. All right, so now let's start talking about the side pieces that are 1.5 inches tall. Okay, so this is the method that used to be how I would wrap my chipboard for albums. So what I'm going to do, like I said, I cut this like I was going to do it the other way. So it's cut a little bit weird, but I could have just used 12-inch long strips. But I'm going to overlap my paper and glue it down so that it overlaps the previous piece by about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to attach so I have one long piece. Okay. You can use score tape, or you can use glue, which is what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to eyeball how much I want to put on here, just a little bit, so that they can overlap, and then line them up. So that they're straight. And I'm going to burnish that and make sure it's dry before I start bending it and working with it. Turn it over. Get rid of any excess glue. Okay, and I'm going to continue doing that with the other pieces also. Just put a little bit of glue. Lay this down. It gets pretty long. There's no way I can show the whole thing on screen. Okay, so now we have one really long strip that's 3 inches wide. I think that's what I told you to cut it to. All right, so what we're going to do is lay down our chipboard. This is going to be really obnoxious to try and show you. We're going to lay down our chipboard and we're going to alternate long, short, long, short. So I'm going to place a long piece on. I'm going to leave a little bit of a space and then put a short piece. Okay, I'll leave a little bit of space and put the long piece, and then I'll do the short piece. Now, I'm only going to leave about a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch on this side so that this is longer so that we can attach the lid to it, because we're going to do it a little bit differently. So I'm going to leave a larger amount of paper here and a shorter amount here. And like I said, it's going to be about a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. So let's go ahead. Oh, this paper is just flopping everywhere. And I'm going to leave about 1 inch at the end, but I don't want my short piece to land in the crease where I glued the two pieces together. I want to make sure that it doesn't bend there, because that'll put some, when you bend it, it might make the paper have a hard time staying together. Does that make sense? So I want to make sure that the end of my chipboard does not, I would not want to put it like this. So you see how the two, no, there, you can see how the two line up. I don't want my end of the chipboard right there at the edge. I want to make sure that it goes over that we glued together. So to do that, maybe it's going to be better for me if I put the short piece first. It doesn't matter as long as you alternate short, long, or long, short, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and glue those down. I'm going to leave about an 1/8 to a 1/4 of an inch in between each piece, okay? Probably closer to an 1/8. All right, so I have all my pieces glued down, and I'm pushing the paper up on the short side, the one that we had less of a border, and I just want to make sure that I'm training that paper to go up and over the chipboard. It is, I ripped my paper there, but it'll be fine. It is kind of obnoxious when it's this long, and that's why I quit making my album covers that way. But what we need to do then is we're going to cut out a triangle in between each piece of chipboard, like so. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that in between all of the chipboard pieces. And we're going to do it on the other side also. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over. Yeah. So just make a cut at an angle and an angle to form a triangle. So that's what it's going to look like. Do that to all the pieces, in between all the pieces, just like we did the other side. Okay. And now we're going to lay down or glue down the short end. So flip this back around. And I'm going to burnish it so it lays down flat. Okay, and I'm going to run score tape on the edge just so it lays down nice and flat. So you can see that I am wrapping it on this side exactly like we did the other. I'm just putting score tape on the chipboard, and at the edge of the paper I'm going to fill in, put glue up against the chipboard, and then fill in that little gap with some glue. And I'm going to bring it up and over. And I did that to all 4 pieces after I cut out the triangles in between the two. Okay, to the edge. This is really hard to work with on my desk because of how long it is. Now we're only going to wrap one end, so we can bring this up and over like so. So I tucked in that little bit of extra, and on this I'll just use glue. Okay, make sure that piece is in, bring it over and lay it down. You just do one end. Okay, now I'm going to put paper in between each of these, just like we did on the other one, so that it covers up the chipboard and reinforces these pieces. So if this is 1 1/2, I'm going to go 1 3/8 long. Maybe a little bit shorter, no, 1 3/8, and I just want to make sure that I get it to the end of the chipboard on this side, because we're going to be wrapping this and there won't be anything covering here. So I want to make sure my black paper goes all the way. It's more important that it's on the edge on this side than on this side. Okay. All right, so just like before, I put score tape on each side of the chipboard. Just to be safe, I did take my black marker and run it through there, so on the edges, so I don't see any of that. If there's just a little bit showing, that will show as black marker and you'll never know it's chipboard. Okay, I went ahead and placed score tape on this little piece. I'm going to just put some glue in between in the empty spots. And remember, I want to go all the way to the edge. I gotta make sure that's, nope, it's this way. Okay. And that will reinforce the edges so that when you bend this, it'll be stronger. And we're going to do that to all of these 2 pieces also, exactly the same. I ended up going about 1 3/8 to 1 1/2 inches long on my black paper. You just kind of have to play it by ear, and just enough to cover probably about 2 inches wide. Okay, I'm going to finish those 2, and then we're going to start folding these up so that we can put the base of the lid on there. So it's okay to put your pattern paper on the inside, because we're going to connect it to the this piece to the outside of the opposite end. So you can put all 4 pieces of pattern paper on the inside. You do want to make sure you take it all the way to the chipboard for the side that we didn't wrap. And then what else did I need? I went around with black ink, Tim Holtz black soot on the paper. I did take my marker and just went up along the edge just in case, so that I don't want to see any chipboard. So that black marker, black Sharpie will come in handy. Now if you want to do the outside, which is probably easier to do now before you put it together, we're going to end up wrapping this around and connecting it to the outside like so. So we're going to attach it to the outside. So you can put pattern paper on your outside pieces too, just not on this one where the tab is going to connect. Don't put that pattern paper on that end, but you can do the other 3 if you want. So these are 1 1/2 wide, so I'm still going to probably do 1 3/8, and then just measure 1/8 of an inch shorter than each piece of chipboard. And so I'm gonna go ahead and do the 3 that I can, and then I'll put it together and do the 4th side then. I went ahead and put on my pattern paper on those 3 pieces. I brought my chipboard up and over so that it would fold, and we would give this a little bit of a memory there so it knows what we want it to do. I'm going to wrap this around, and I'm going to attach it like so, and I want to make sure it lines up, and I'm just going to glue this down on that side. So let me put some glue on this. This is so long I can't even tell you. So the glue will go to the inside. And bring it up and over. Make sure it lines up. Oopsie. All right. So now I can put the paper on that final side, and then we're going to attach the top to these pieces that are hanging over the edge here. So this way there's no definite line in between all of the sides. All right, now that we have the four sides put together, this frame is going to be what attaches to the top of the lid. So I'm going to drop the lid down into the center here, and it should fit snug, but yet fit. Yep, perfect. Okay, so we're going to push down, and then we're going to turn it over and just glue all of these pieces onto that piece of chipboard. Okay, so I'm going to do one at a time. I'll do the long side over here first. We'll be putting pattern paper on it, so it will hide these four pieces that are hanging over the edge. Okay, so I'm going to bring that over, and I'm going to flip it so that I can push down real well and let it adhere. Okay. And I'm going to do the opposite side. I'm just putting art glitter glue on this tab. Push it down. You got to make sure that you push it down real firmly so that that paper sticks, especially in the corners. And then finally the last two. Okay, and bring that over, push down, in the corners, and last one. I feel like I didn't angle this as well, but it doesn't matter. It'll be covered. And flip over and burnish. And it'll look better once we have that pattern paper on there, of course. And there's our lid. And now we'll put pattern paper on the top and on the inside. So here's the top of the box, the sides, and then here's the inside. And you'll see that it rests on top of the box real nice. You have plenty of room. It's not tight, but it's not too loose that it's looks weird. So here, let me show you the front. So this is what it looks like from the front view. And I want it to kind of look like a camera. So I cut a 4-inch long strip, and I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to angle it like so and try and make it look like the top of a camera. So this is 1 3/8 high, and it's 4 inches long, and I'm just going to measure over a 1/2 inch and down a 1/2 inch and slice that corner off and make it into a or do I want it? No, I'm going to go 1/2 inch in and go all the way to the bottom so that it goes up. Yep, 1/2 inch over, and then I'm going to cut from the bottom right up to that 1/2 inch, and then same on the other side. All right, I'm going to center this like so. So let me get my glue. I ended up going to, I liked the looks of it better when I measured over 3/4 of an inch instead of 1/2 of an inch. Either one will work, but I thought it looked a little bit better with 3/4 and then down to the corner. Okay, so let me pick which side I want to be the front. I think this one looks a little bit better. I'm just eyeballing it to see if it's, that looks good. Okay, so now as we decorate, it's going to start looking more and more like a camera. Okay, so there's that. So I will put a round, probably a shaker right here. I'll have to look to see what I have. Maybe a die cut off to the side. I also like, where are those ladies? I like these ladies, so I might cut one of them. I don't know. I'll just start decorating and see what happens. And then I'll come back on and show you how I finished it off. So now that everything has paper on it and it's decorated, I thought I'd just give you a quick look at what it looks like finished. Here's the top of the box, and then here is the front. Okay, so I tried to make it look like a camera, and when you open it, it's got the pattern paper on the inside. It's a good sized box. But I had I have a die for the bow, and I had this little pearl dangly thing. I cut out one of the cut apart ephemera pieces that says Christmas cheer. This is a Tim Holtz die with the swirls. This wood piece, I don't know where I got it, but I put some sparkly stuff on it. I don't know if you can tell. Maybe not. No, doesn't look too sparkly. And then I used from Country Craft Creations, I used these the ruby red acrylic crystal droplets. I love those. They come in different colors too. And then from my own stash, I have this blingy piece, this trim right here. This is, it was the lid to one of these little cup things. And I just used the clear lid to make the shaker. And there are some shaker pieces in there, but they're kind of hard to see. This is a Tim Holtz die in the background also, this black piece. Fussy cut the letter to Santa, and fussy cut the lady at the mailbox. So the sides and the back are just plain, but I am going to make an album to go inside. Oh, this piece, I didn't have one that said like Merry Christmas or something, so it says Choose to Shine. I hope that kind of goes with the theme. And then I have a seam binding bow here at the bottom. So I'm going to make an album to put inside, or a folio or something. I don't know exactly what for sure, but I just wanted to show you the end result. And if you have any questions on how I made the box or the construction of the box, let me know. The lid, I like it. It's just perfect. It sits on there nicely, but there's a little bit of give. So that's Christmas Cheer, the paper. It's at Country Craft Creations. Stay tuned because I will be having an album to put inside, like I said, and I'll do a tutorial for that also. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching and have a great night.